Hey there, welcome back. This is Alegria again, the Dutch skipper. And today's focus, or at least this first part of the video, is going to be fixing that fuel system. Because if you watched last video, you know that I was able to crack, straightforward crack, one of the glass sedenter glasses. Which means that we had a fuel leak, and I plugged that, well, ish. Basically, I have a gravity feed system, so that means the fuel comes from the fuel tank, and as opposed to having a valve that shuts it off, it just keeps dripping until it finds something where it can either pull up or stop. Seeing as I didn't have that, I put a glove onto it with a tie wrap around it, and that, well, sealed it off. But now we have parts for the new gear. The new layout is going to be having a integrated water splitter, I think water splitter filter, something like that. Plus a fuel filter, and some hoses, and a shut-off valve. So it's going to be fun with fuel. Fun with fuel systems, once again. Regarding the expense here, I paid about, I think, 80 bucks for this. And I'm not sure if I'm going to use all the parts right now, but I am going to make this setup as easy as possible. Which may mean that there is a fuel filter currently attached to the engine. It's an awful place, because once that big heat exchanger comes back, I'll not be able to reach that. I might be putting that somewhere else. I just need to figure out where. So first I'm going to show you what we have, and then I'm going to make a plan and see how exactly I can make this as easy for myself to maintain in the future. Because those fuel filters are something that have to get addressed yearly, I think. So I better make sure it's accessible, as opposed to having to remove the entire heat exchanger every single year. Let's dig in. So today's haul, potentially most important, a valve. This is going to go directly onto the fuel line and make sure it just completely gets shut off. I didn't have that last time, which prompted that DIY solution. I have a couple of these things, which are going to be, well, probably more involved with that second part. The second part, which is removing the, let's say the finer fuel filter from the actual engine and making sure I can put that somewhere else. I got a couple of those. We got 3 meters of hose here, which I can cut to my heart's content, and of course clamp off with hose clamps. And then over here we got our big splitter. I am really hoping that this is going to allow me to just use the ports that I have. Over here, we got the old one. Look at that. Lines up perfectly. So this should be pretty straightforward. At least mounting it. Part 2 is this thing here. Because the wires that are currently, well, not the wires, the fuel lines that I currently have are copper. Which means I'm going to have to either relocate those, and supposedly copper is a bit flexible, or I'm going to have to find a way to attach part of the hose to that and make a sort of intermittent solution. Regarding this thing, let's open that up. This is going to ideally screw directly into here, but of course it does not. I'm really hoping that would work, because then I could just put that right in there. Seeing as that does not work, I might need to add just the tiniest bit of hose between there, but that feels like a bit of a waste. So maybe I am missing a part, which I should have ordered, because I think I can put these things out in the on the outsides, if you will. We're going to have one over here. Yeah, that lines up perfectly. I can have that there, I think. I really got to be careful on this. Yeah, I think that goes in. So then you're going to have a bit of hose, and then you're going to have, so let's say hose, and then the other part goes there. Onto this thing. Just like that. I would like for these just to be connected. But I'm gonna have to get a, like a male part here. Otherwise, I don't think I can fix this. Let's see what we have down in the hatch. First, I'm going to set these things up properly, because this one is in, this one is out. So it's almost like they assume this thing is mounted in reverse. I'm going to have to change these, because if these things come out, I can then shut off the other part. And you have to make sure this thing flows in the right direction. Otherwise it's not doing a whole lot of filtering. Make sure that's really tight. I don't want to have any fuely surprises. This one's going to come out. This one's also going to come out. It just hasn't had the memo yet. Good lord. Yeah, you're... There you go. I just had that one early bit of tightening that was refusing it. Now I'm doing this before, so that I don't have to do it while this thing is in place, because that would be probably quite annoying to have to do. Better make sure your system's set up first, otherwise you're still going to be doing shit like this after. Let's give that a bit of a tensioning. There we go. Okay, so we got fuel in. That's that thing over there. We got fuel out. That is going to go in here. Twist the camera a bit. There. That's where the fuel goes, and then it gets distributed right down there. You can see there already is a hose, and from there it kind of goes into the engine. And here we have the final product. I had to go back and forth a few times in order to get the parts I needed, notably these rings, and I just ended up not using the same hose because I don't really trust those anymore. Anyway, we now have a fuel valve. I can just shut this off. If I'm working on any part, I can turn it on. It's going to go through there. Then it's going to get filtered, and then it's going to pump itself, or rather, I think get drawn by the pump out of there. And it goes into the engine. So, for the first time, well, the second time if you're counting the woodwork, I have actually fixed something aboard. I have replaced something with a new part, and boy does it feel good. Little update on the heat exchanger. What you're looking at right here is a big can, or big tank, with about 16 liters of water. I'm not sure what that is in gallons, but there is a sort of acid in there. I'll put on text on screen what sort of acid that is. And you can see this water started out as just regular water, but right now it's definitely done a lot. I'm hoping that this is going to finally break that connection down there, so that I'll be able to take things apart, clean them properly, install the new gaskets over there, and then make sure that they also get a couple of these new anodes, which are on the other side of those. I think we might have some movement on this. I really gotta be careful not to drop my phone in that, because this one I think was a bit more tight than it used to be. Side effects, it's also cleaning the, come on, focus on that. It's also cleaning the interior parts there. And after this is done, I'm gonna rinse it and see how much stuff is still in there. If this doesn't work, we're gonna have to come up with some other plan. All this bubbly stuff is not actually me trying to be Heisenberg. It's adding baking soda to the oxalic acid. This is to make sure that it's safe for sewage water. Once it starts bubbling, you know that it's getting neutralized. And the moment that it stops bubbling, which took about 1 kilogram of baking soda, that's when I was able to put it safely into the sewage system. After some percussive motivation, I was able to finally release these two parts from each other. And finally, with that, I was also able to draw the tubes out. I cleaned the whole bunch as good as I could. And after that, added new gaskets and put the whole thing back together. That too was a bit of a struggle, but I'm glad that it finally worked out. A couple days later, we're finally back aboard the boat, and look at what I got. I have a reassembled heat exchanger. Over here was the part that was a bit folded. Ideally, that's now fixed. I don't know 100%, but we got a gasket there. Then the layer from the heat exchanger, the tubing that goes in there. Then another gasket, and then this part that goes and connects to the engine. Next, this guy. We have a new part for that, because what sits over there is a very important part, the thermostat, from my understanding. The thermostat is the one that goes, hey, my engine's going a bit warm, I need to start circulating additional water. Not through the engine, because there's coolant running through the engine and water through the heat exchanger to cool down the cooling liquid. I hope I understand it quite like that. So over here sits that part, and that has finally arrived. Took its sweet time getting here. And here we are. This is really all that I was waiting for. But hey, I found it in a web shop in Bulgaria. And, yep, there it is. This thing is either going to open or not, depending on how hot it thinks everything is. This thing was about, I think, 35 bucks in Bulgaria. But over here in the Netherlands, it was all the way up to 85 at the most expensive web shop, I think. So I thought, whoa, shall we not? Sealant ring. This is going to go around that. Then that is going to sit in there. And that goes in there. Sealant ring first. This comes back on top, and then the new thermostat is installed. And look at it, all shiny and stuff. As for the rest of the thermostat, sorry, the heat exchanger, I think it's mostly ready. This is a placeholder, because there's supposed to be another part that comes out. It's a bit, I think I have it here. Yeah, this little guy. Very annoying shape, because this is never going to fit through one of those securing bolts. So I have decided to mount something else. That one. One thing I was unable to fix is the anodes. That can be a problem, because the anodes... Don't do that. The anodes are a sort of sacrificial piece of metal. They sacrifice themselves so that the rest of the thing doesn't rust. Mine have done their sacrificial job very well, up to the point where there isn't much left, but they've gone so far that there's nothing to attach to. There's no real tool could get any grip on it. So I've decided just to let those sit, and I'm going to start saving up for an engine replacement, which is probably going to run 3 to 5k, depending on what sort of engine I want. Ideally better, ideally electric, but that's a whole different discussion. For now, I'm going to install that thermostat. I'm going to also, before I reseat this big guy, going to add the fuel filter. So that's first on the list. Here we are again. This is what is left of the fuel filter. It sounds worse than it is. It's not necessarily that bad. It's just that I took the part off. So that should be a fairly easy unwind. And then we can add that new filter in. Here we have the old part of the fuel filter. Here's the new guy. And it should be fairly straightforward, from my understanding. All I need to do is add a couple of rings and we're done. A couple gaskets ought to do the trick. Let's open that up. Alright, there's a bunch of rings, couple big, couple small. Right. Let's see. We got this guy here. I think this is a touch too big. Yeah, that's better. Alright, first ring. Then comes the fuel filter. Then comes the next ring, sort of. If only. If only. Hold on. Maybe this guy came from the part down there. Take you with me. Here. I think that's where that's supposed to go. Yeah, that fits fairly snugly. The challenge is, will it stay? I don't know. I kind of doubt it, so... Oh, it sits. If it fits, I sits. Then, there is another ring. The interesting thing is, I thought these were supposed to screw on, but guess not. Couple more rings, small ones. And that, I imagine, is going to sit on the top to properly secure it. I think. I don't know how much that's supposed to expand. No, not that much. Ooh, drop that into the filter. If I'm looking at this thing, I think it's just going to go in like that, and then pop the rest back in. Let's go do that. In position, one new fuel filter. Excellent. I have already reattached all of these things before, so that means we can now move on to the next part. This is the old gasket, by the way. Don't need that anymore. Thermostat comes on top and gets secured by these things. So there needs to be a gasket here, and I think we're going to have gaskets on multiple sides. So there's going to be one gasket that goes on there, unless I got a smaller one for that. Gasket's actually supposed to go in here, because here it makes a whole lot more sense, because here it fits extremely snugly. So that's where it's going to go. Now then, before I'm going to go and put everything back together, I'm first going to put the new belt on. It goes 1, 2, 3. The thing is, last time I was disassembling the whole array, this thing kind of got in the way, to the point where I don't know how much I can tighten this without losing access to all the parts where bolts are supposed to go. I'm going to tighten it some, to at least have some tension on that belt. At least according to ChatGPT, that was the right play. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3. We're going to put that thing back in position and then start installing the rest. Next thing reinstalled, the legendary impeller pump. This is the guy who I replaced. Well, I didn't replace the pump, I replaced the axis inside of it and the impeller and the gaskets and stuff. Over here you can see another bit of gasket. This is the one that didn't want to fit last time around. So I created a custom, actually no, sorry. This is the one that didn't want to fit. There wasn't a gasket there. There was an O-ring, and I put that in there. And now I also added some gasket paper, so this is a homemade gasket, to further reinforce this position, because this is the guy who was leaking way back when. This is how it all started. Now that all this is in position, I can add the big mounting thing once again, which of course has to go through all the bolts that I just installed. Okay, fine, back to the drawing board. This is what it's supposed to look like. So these all went first. This supports the whole heat exchanger. Without that, the thing is probably going to, I don't know, careen into the depths, because it'll only be supported by this bracket here, which is never going to be enough. So this thing has to come on first, then the bolts, of course, are going to hold it in place, and once that is done, I think we'll be one step closer to our final rebuild. Okay, time for the big one. This is going to be the heat exchanger, but first, commercials. No, don't worry, we don't do that yet. This guy. This guy is a new metallic kind of gasket, because it sits next to, yeah, there it is, that thing. Where does that go? Right here. Right here. That's where that's supposed to go. So I'm making sure that I have that bit installed. Otherwise I might be leaking heat, exhaust. I don't know, but I'm fairly certain it won't be pretty. So better make sure that thing is coming in the build, unless I want to invite some level of disaster. The question is going to be, how do I get to fit this? Good Lord. I'm wearing gloves and I can't get this thing open. Here it is. This is the metallic guy that I need to sit in that manifold. Like that. So, like that. The question now becomes, how do I fit that in? I know there's 5 big bolts that go down there. So I'm going to figure out those first. Because those were really, really annoying to try and get out. There was one very important one, that was giving me issues. That's the one that's going through a part that I'm sitting on right now. I'm going to install this and I'll get back to you when it's done. Things are never as easy as they appear. Over here I have this pipe junction and this really does not want to go. So what I'm going to do is put all these bolts back out, put that thing back on there, tighten the screw things that are supposed to go on there, and then push this thing back in, because this is seemingly holding up the converter. Sorry, not the converter. The heat exchanger, and with that, I can't move on. So this thing has got to come off first, and hopefully I can easily get those things back on. All right, been at it for a couple hours now. Most of the thing is back together. Most of the thing. It is, once again, solid as a rock. I can shake this as much as I want and nothing will move. That's the good part. The questionable part here is this guy. I have him connected on one side. The other side is very tricky to get to. Right over there. And there is a gasket. You can just kind of make out the edge right there. That might be slightly off. So I might have to undo this one and just, shuffle it into position a bit. Alternatively, I'm going to have to take the whole thing off again. Which is not something I want to do. That was a lot of boat yoga today. A lot of boat yoga. But, a lot's been done. As you can see, heat exchanger's back. This thing's back on and attached. This little tube is back. That pump, or sorry, the water input thingy is now back. So lots of things are moving. Lots of things are moving forward, which is the direction I want. There is, however, one more, and that's this guy bit. Well, you can kind of see my pinky coming out of there. I know I took something off of there. I just don't know where I put it. I can't believe I tossed it because it would be too big for that. But I will have to get a replacement for it. A replacement part for that. Otherwise, this is not going to fly. Fly it probably will never do, as it's a boat. But hey, sailing would be progress. So, more work done and plenty more to do, but not today. One day later, I have reattached this part here, which was giving me all sorts of trouble. The trick was eventually just detaching the whole heat exchanger again. Just one bolt that I couldn't get in. So the whole thing had to come off. Then I put that, connecting piece on. And now I can put it back. That also means that this thing that I was looking for here, I found that one. So that one's in. The thermostat is in and secure. So now I'm going to fill this compartment up with coolant. And then we're going to seal it off with all of these things. And of course a gasket and the whole shebang. And I think after that we can start. I hope. Let's see. Moment of truth. I can now open the external thingy again. That one over there. That's going to allow the water to go back into the system. The rest of it should be entirely ready. There is about 5.5 liters of coolant in there. It's completely sealed. I believe I have everything done. At the moment, nothing is leaking yet. Emphasis yet. Let's open this one. And I'm going to do that without the camera because I cannot really hold myself in place and open that. Okay. It's not fixed. It's not fixed. There's still a leak. I'll edit it in over here so you can see it. And it just appears to be the same part. From what I understand, it's a weeping hole, which signifies, hey, there's a ring or something like that that's missing, or that's worn out or something. On top of that, it seems to have caused, well, not that one has caused, but there is a second one. This really fucking sucks. I'm not going to continue working on it right now. I've shut off the external water intake, and I've shut off the fuel system in case that's it. So yeah, we'll be back sometime in the future and continue working on the whole thing. I'm gonna have to take the whole heat exchanger apart, or at least take the whole thing off again. I'll probably get to the water pump, which I had off at some point, and either completely replace the whole thing or somehow put another ring in if I can find the right part. If it's going to be a replacement, it's going to be anywhere from 150 to 600 bucks. Yeah, it just really fucking sucks because this has been another 6 hours or so. Like, not today, but in total, that I've been just trying to put everything back together and then take it all off, and then it sucks. Such, I'm afraid, is about life. So if you have any suggestions or feedback on what it is, what it could be, what I should be doing, by all means let me know. And I look forward to seeing your comments. I was really hoping to finish this video off with wow, it starts. We're not there. We're not anywhere near there. And the worst part is that over here, I filled this up with about 5.5 liters of coolant. I can just toss that, because all of that is going to have to get removed, because this is going to come off, this part's going to come off, the thermostat's going to come off, the whole thing is going to come off, and we're right back to square one. Shit. So as you could see in the video, we still got a leak. And thanks to a friend, I now know what the problem is, which is very fortunate. It's the impeller thing. Not the impeller, well, it's the impeller pump, just not the impeller side. So that's good news, I don't have to take the impeller side apart again. But this whole guy is going to have to come off. So this is going to open up, I'm going to drain this, I'm going to take this whole thing off, and then I will get to there. Take that thing off, and eventually get to the part which is actually leaking, which is over there. And no, I can't reach it. Not right now. So this is going to be a lot of rehearsing the same steps. Rehashing the entire, well, demolishing, and seeing if I can still catch a lot of that coolant stuff. Because it'd be a big waste to just have to toss that. A while later, the whole thing is back together. And here you can see one of the weeping holes. The other one's on the other side. I have opened the water thingy, the water valve, and I'm not seeing anything. I am not seeing anything dropping. No leaking, no water, no nothing. So I think we gotta win. I think I can reassemble the rest, make sure that everything goes back to where it goes, which should take me about 20 minutes, give or take. Recompile the whole thing, and we might be ready for test run. So, a bit later, here she is. Here she is, everything put back together. And the best part is, she ain't leaking. She is not leaking. The water you can see in the bilge is a mix of, well, water, a bit of coolant, maybe a few drips of diesel, but otherwise, I think it is fine. There's still something dripping, but I don't think that's strictly related to what I have done at this point. It also doesn't seem to be terribly consistent. Like, all sorts of engine juices, for lack of a better term, came over the engine. So it's a bit dirty. Yeah, it'll have some residue water stuff on it. Whatever. I think we're ready to give it a go. There is one bolt that's missing. It's a bit unfortunate. It's this guy, but over there. So I'll have to get a replacement for that. But aside from that, I think we're good to go. So, for the videos, this is the first time I'm starting this girl up. We put batteries to both. And then turn the key on. Got oil pressure. And I'll let it sit for a few seconds. Preheat the whole thing. go through a mental checklist. Have I done everything? I've opened the water valve. I got the fuel filter in. I got the fuel valve in, which is open. Everything's back together. There's coolant in the coolant tank. The only thing I haven't replaced yet is the oil, but I can't really replace the oil unless I got a warm engine. So with all that, the only thing I can imagine is that I may have tripped over a wire somewhere, which is now disconnected, and that's going to cause issues. But we'll see about that right about now. Not yet. Might need a few seconds lower to, or longer to pre-glow those diesel, whatever, chambers, cylinders. This is the part where my tech level just stops. So, wait a few seconds. Derp. Those were observant of you. I probably would have commented, hey, maybe open the throttle. Because otherwise this thing isn't getting any gas. So, we're going to put it in neutral, we're going to put it in forward. This way it's gotten some thrust. Well, it's getting some fuel. And she still don't want to go. These things feel so old. Yeah, neutral, forward, execute. No joy yet. Let's switch this thing to just the starter battery. And then we're going to see what sort of power we got. Panel lights. We got a good 12 volts. So that ain't it. I'm not sure why it won't start then. Yep. Something's loose here. I'm not sure exactly what it is or how important it is, but there's some wiring loose. I imagine it's not going to help start the engine. New dawn, new day, new challenge. It just doesn't stop, does it? What I did so far was make sure that every cylinder gets diesel. So far, when I unscrewed part of the cylinder, like the thing over there, no, there, diesel came out. So I thought, yeah, okay, great, let's start. No. We don't just do that here. No. Because these two are in a really bad state. If I understand things correctly, what those things do, especially with that resistor over there, is do the preheating, or the pre-glow. I'm not really sure what the English term is. Without that, the whole thing won't ignite, and that means these have to get replaced. But it is not so simple as to just crimp on additional festoon things. Well, feston things. With these, yes, this one's fine. This one has seen some better days. What I can do is probably remove this thing here and just take that whole crimpy thing off. The thing is, there's not just one, but two going there. Like a double one, or a bigger, I don't know, a bigger ring thingy. I don't believe I have those available. Not on the boat anyway. As for this other wire, maybe I could just strip it a bit, because it does have enough room. So it should, actually, no, it needs to go there. Yeah, as long as I can make it there, I can get a new wire for the other part. So what I'm going to do is take a bit off here, and I kind of need one of these. One of those festoon things, and that's the only thing I don't have. I guess this might be the curse of first boat, as well as not doing a whole lot of DIY, where you're just buying a ton of stuff because you don't have a stockpile. You don't have this, you don't have that, you don't have such, you don't have the other. And because of all of that, you'll be building up stockpile for sure. It's just going to take you a while. And I'm exactly at that point. I am at the stockpile building point, which means at the moment I can fix one of these lines, one of these cables. I cannot fix the other one. So, well, I guess back to the DIY store it is. Alright, first connection is now made. That's this one to that one. And also this one got a new ring, as opposed to this, whatever the hell that was. This one is also going to go on. I gotta say, this is my first time doing this. This is the first time crimping connections. Well, I think I did it about 14 years ago when I was building a drone. I had to solder, I had to start crimping connections, so that's when I did that, but I haven't done it since. So I was a bit anxious, but look, it's just really easy. Once you have a wire stripped down, you just make sure it's a bit bound together. You put one of those things on. Let me see if I have the camera record that. There. You can sort of see the wire coming out through the top. There. If the camera wants to focus on that, it'd be wonderful. It does not. Just ensure that's in there. And then you get one of these gentlemen here. And you crimp the connection. You just kind of bind it together like that. It's a yellow one, so in my case it's going to be the insulated one. Camera, shall we? Anyway, it's the 6 here. So, yum, 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 yum. I'm really happy that this thing is not too far gone, because otherwise I'd have to start opening this whole wire harness and figure out where that whole thing goes. Which is not something I really want to do. It has one of those, shall we say, Pandora's boxes. This boat, like, you constantly open up new things and you go, what are we going to find today? I'll just change this one part here. I'll just change the fuel filter. No, you won't. You have to take off the whole heat exchanger. The whole heat exchanger won't come off. So, yeah, I'm sometimes a little anxious about opening up more projects. There. That looks a lot cleaner. That looks a lot cleaner. Once more. Power on. Pre-glow, preheat, whatever. And will she start? Let's see. Yep. We're back here again. It's off again. Why? Well, over here on the starboard side, I have this little pump thingy. And when I squeeze that, I had, there you can see it, diesel coming out of there, which is really not supposed to go there. So I'm probably missing a ring there, which means that it's going to leak. Lovely. The way that this works, the fuel comes in through here, gets filtered by this thing, and gets pumped into the engine. But if this thing leaks, there's air coming into the engine, and it doesn't really seem to appreciate that. This is something that a mechanic told me, because I called him and I said, well, it might be an electrical system, but it worked before and it didn't really change anything, well, except the fix that I did. He said, well, it sounds, after I started the engine on the phone, it sounds like the engine will turn over, but it's just not getting any fuel. So that's the problem, and he told me to look for that mechanical pump thingy. So now I had to take this whole thing off to get here, because I simply couldn't easily do some maintenance on that. So I'm going to take this off, put that ring, or potentially do another ring and put that there on the other side, because that's where it's squirting fuel. Since that last clip, a lot of things have been moving and I didn't quite take footage of everything. I managed to change some of the fuel routes that you can currently see here. And I also had an engineer over because I was looking at the pre-glow system and I just couldn't get it to work. Turns out I simply wasn't doing it correctly. You have to turn the key and not just keep it in the middle position, but kind of twist it as if you're trying to start the engine, and then it pre-glows, and after that you fully push on, like one of those old cameras where you used to first hold the button and then it actually took the photo. Once I had the engineer over, he also said, hey, you're looking, sorry, I think it's a mechanic, not an engineer. He said, you have a fuel leak. So I had to take the heat exchanger off again, was working on the fuel lines, made sure everything was done,
and then I had to get all the oxygen out of the fuel system, which was quite a bit of work all of its own. Thankfully, after a bunch of testing, I managed to get to this point.
Yes!
That was a really, really big win. As you can see, there was a bit of smoke coming off the engine. It's because the mix ratio wasn't great, because there was still air in the system, but it worked. The sad part is, we're not in the clear. As you can see, there's still a bit of a leak coming off of the heat exchanger. This is one of the gaskets that I managed to seal, but not well enough, I guess. So there's still some work to be done. Something else I wanted to test is how are the RPMs, because that was the problem before. Well, stationary, it works quite well. I'm also very happy with the fact that it's now just pre-glow for a couple seconds, turn the key, and she lives. So finally, working boat. That was quite the journey. Good lord. I have, I think spent 3 to 3.5 to 4 weeks on just taking the heat exchanger apart, putting it in that oxalic acid bath that you have seen in this clip, putting the thing back together, testing, taking the thing back apart, trying to rescue as much coolant as possible every time. It was just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I'm not done yet. But at least I have a working engine. I know there's no air in the fuel system anymore, which is good, because that's not where it's supposed to go. I will probably, I'll probably take the whole heat exchanger apart once more. Well, I'm saying once, so it's probably 3 times. And make sure that there is no more leaking, because that leak can't have that. I will probably take it out this weekend, hopefully, because it's one of the last good days in this summer, at least it should be. And I'll definitely do another video on that, because so far all this channel has been about is just boat maintenance, which is not what I want it to be. So thank you for watching this long video. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I shall see you soon for the first sail, at least with you, aboard Alegria. Thank you for watching.